Well, everything is a model, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by model is there's no accurate representation of really anything in the universe. It's all a model. Just like, you've
we're
seen...
going real deep.
Yeah, we're going deep. It's not like there's just 5 love languages. These are the 5 things that it just has to be one of these ways. It's just a way of kind of grouping things together that generally fit, that you could generally say that humans aren't really that black and white, right? There's no, this person's introvert, this person's extrovert, right? People get upset when I say this, but it's because it's a model. It's not but you have to have models in order to be able to look at things or talk about things, right? That are close enough approximations.
A majority of men's top love language is physical touch. And obviously it's because they enjoy other physical activities.
Today you got the
Today,
episode.
The episode is going to be about love languages.
Okay.
And John wants to quiz me on love languages. I sent him a screenshot just to make sure we got them all down. But they are quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch, gift giving, and acts of service. That should be all.
I think that's it. Yeah, you got it.
And yeah, so I don't know where we want to start, but I guess I definitely wanted to ask you because I'm curious. I feel like we've talked about this, but I haven't asked you, but do you think they're real? Do you think they matter? Do you think they change? Basically, what do you think of them?
Well, I mean, I guess I'll give you my philosophical answer, which is that, well, everything is a model, right? So what I mean by model is there's no accurate representation of really anything in the universe. It's all a model. Just like, you've seen...
going real deep.
Yeah, we're going deep. We're going philosophy 100 miles per hour.
Oh, okay.
So just like an atom, right? You've seen the pictures of an atom, right? Like with the nucleus and then the electrons orbiting around. Well, that's actually the old model of an atom doesn't actually look like that. Right? The space between electrons and the nucleus is way bigger than just the little orbit. It's a huge amount. But then there's like another model, like the electron cloud model, which shows like that maybe you see in the later textbooks, maybe high school textbooks, right? And it's like a cloud. It's not even showing it like circling because that's, it takes into affect quantum mechanics. And anyway, it's all just a model. It's all just an approximation of the thing so you can understand it. A map is a model, right, of the earth or, where you're going. So the love languages are a model. They're not, it's not like there's just 5 love languages. These are the 5 things that it just has to be one of these ways. It's just a way of kind of grouping things together that generally fit, that you could generally say that, it's a way to be able to talk about it. I don't think I've read the book. I haven't read the book. No.
You thought I did?
No, I was just thinking, okay.
I thought you would have read the book.
As everyone clicks off of they're like, oh, they're going to talk about love languages. They haven't read the book about love. They're just going to talk about what they think about love language. I mean, it comes up in enough other books and topics.
Right. But it's like, also, do you need to read the book? Like, people know enough about it. I get it probably goes more in depth, but I don't think we need to throw out the whole episode because we didn't read the books.
but yeah, so it's a model. That's what I think. Is that it's just like a lot of things. People take sometimes models too seriously, right? Even like, I'm going to get in trouble, catch some for this one, but introversion, introverts and extroverts doesn't really exist. It's a model for classifying things to make it a little easier to talk about things, to say, okay, this person's introverted, this person's extroverted. Humans aren't really that black and white, right? There's no, this person's introvert, this person's extrovert, right? People get upset when I say this, but it's because it's a model. It's not but you have to have models in order to be able to look at things or talk about things, right? That are close enough approximations.
So you think everybody has some version of all of them. Is that what you're saying? And then, well, I mean, they do, when you do like the quizzes online, I have taken a quiz.
Yeah.
They like rank them. So like, and normally you have some percentage of all of them. So I would agree with that.
Right.
But it's like, so what you're saying though is that people just go based off of their top one and then say like, this is my love language, when really it's whatever combination of all of them.
Well, I think it's also, I think it changes over time. I think it's more of usually what a person's lacking the most in terms of validation.
Okay.
Right. So
Or
I think
to
that
have
can,
that love.
right. I think that can
connection.
change over time. But I do think that, to some degree, some people find some things more meaningful.
Do you think it
than
changes?
Others.
Or do you think maybe it gets fulfilled and then it moves on to the next thing?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, however you want to say it, I think it's pretty much the same idea. Right?
Well, I have a philosophy.
Okay. Give me your philosophy.
I feel like
okay,
a majority of men's top love language is physical touch. And obviously it's because they enjoy other physical activities. But like, I feel like if you polled 100 men, 98 of them, their top one would be physical touch.
Yeah, I mean, some guys will lie because they don't want to just be grouped into it. But yeah, you're right. So, but here's the thing about it. All right. And this is a different topic for a different podcast episode that I've been wanting to do, which we'll eventually do, which is that I think a lot of modern psychology and therapy can be rewritten in terms of masculinity and femininity. Right. And I think this is also one of them because, you've heard me talk about with attachment theory, right? Anxious attachment is just feminine and avoidant attachment is just masculine. Now, they're the wrong versions of feminine and masculine, but they're those attributes, right? And usually it does fall that women have the anxious attachment and men have the avoidant attachment, right? So I think the same thing with love languages is that you could say love languages, or you can say, okay, this is how men feel loved. This is how women feel loved. And you're going to find some variation, but I think the groupings will be.
Women's do vary more than men's, though. And I want to ask you, because I think your top one's physical touch, isn't it? I mean, you're a guy. So,
well, I mean, let me just think about, right? Okay. I mean, physical touch, right? Words of affirmation.
That's like your second?
No, I'm just trying to think like.
Of them?
Like, do I care about that? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is it. What's the other one? Gifts?
Yeah.
No. But yeah, I don't care about gifts.
Acts of service.
Not so much.
Quality time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Okay. So, as someone who literally my last one whenever I take a quiz is physical touch. So, but I'm thinking of it and I feel like guys' love language version of physical touch is also different than women's love language of physical touch. Because I feel like women more like want hugs and kisses and like holding their hand. And like, I'm not saying guys don't want that, but I feel like typically they want more of like, oh, she touches my arm and she like, I don't like more like trying to set the mood for the other thing that they want. You know what I mean? Would you say that that's true?
I think that's true. But I mean, we talked about in some other episodes that a woman showing desire for a man is what makes him feel good.
Right. So that's where it's like, it's more of like desiring touching. I would think that men want more than like a hug. I'm not saying men don't want a hug. Right. But I'm saying that I feel like that would cater more towards a woman who has physical touch as her number one. Because there are women who have physical touch as their their main one.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like theirs is necessarily more sexual as I feel like men's is, if that makes sense.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's an interesting distinction. I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And two, I agree with you that I think that what your love language is has to do with like how you grew up and maybe a thing that you were like lacking that made you feel loved, or you got these things but not enough of one of them that really made you feel loved. Because again, as kids, we don't know. We're not going to be like, hey, mom, dad, like quality time is my love language. Can you hang out with me? Like, so I feel like that's where it stems from. But at the same, and I don't know too if like my physical touch one is so low because I didn't come from a family that like gave a bunch of hugs all the time and did all that stuff. Like, would it be different if I had? Like, would that have moved up?
Would that have changed that?
So that's where it's like interesting. I think it's interesting, like the psychology behind it. And I guess we'll have to read the book or something.
Better than